What if I told you that the biggest plot twist in love and hip-hop history didn't happen on camera but inside a courtroom? With Stevie J holding a flash drive like it was the holy grail of betrayal? What if the jail calls Bambi made behind? Bars weren't just messy, they were explosive enough to shatter a marriage. Flip a courtroom on its head and send social media into cardiac arrest. Because baby, when Stevie stood up, smirked at the judge and whispered, "Your Honor, I have new evidence." It wasn't a moment. It was a damn movie premiere. Lil Scrappy thought he was walking into a divorce hearing. Instead, he stepped into a live-action expose of his own heartbreak, broadcast through speakers so loud you could hear the lies echoing off the marble walls. You thought reality TV was wild? This mess makes Game of Thrones look like Sesame Street. And now, the internet's on fire. Mama D's live streaming in the courthouse lobby. Twitter's dragging wigs and wiping tears. Scrappy's fists are clenched. Bambi's mascara is smudged. And Stevie is just getting started. Buckle up, because this isn't gossip. This is war. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. And the silence was louder than the cameras clicking in the hallway. Stevie J didn't walk in. He arrived like a villain in a season finale. Dressed in designer shades and a smirk that said he knew something the rest of the world didn't. He wasn't listed on the docket, wasn't called as a witness, but somehow he had a seat right up front like he was directing the whole circus. Lil Scrappy sat stiff-eyed scanning the room, completely unaware that he was about to be the star of a live betrayal broadcast. Bambi was already seated with her lawyer, face stone cold like she rehearsed it in the mirror. Then came the moment that would flip the courtroom on its head. Stevie calmly stood up, pulled out a flash drive like it was the holy grail of drama, said, "Your Honor, I have new evidence that changes everything." The judge hesitated, the entire room froze. And Scrappy turned his head slowly, eyes narrowing like he knew this wasn't going to end with a simple signature on divorce papers. The judge gave the nod, and that's when the speakers kicked in. "I used him. He was weak. I needed out." It was Bambi's voice, clear as day, echoing through the courtroom like a slap in the face. Scrappy's jaw clenched so hard you could see the muscle twitch. The room went still. One woman gasped. Mama D stood up in the back and yelled, "I knew it! Ah! I knew she was no good." The judge banged the gavel, but it was too late. The damage was done. Scrappy shot up from his seat, eyes burning red, face twisted in rage. "You lied to me for years, in my house, in front of my daughter." His voice cracked, loud enough to drown out even the audio still playing. The judge demanded order, but it was chaos-raw, televised heartbreak. What started as a divorce hearing had turned into a betrayal trial with Stevie J as the surprise prosecutor. And the wildest part? He wasn't done. Stevie reached into his bag like Mary Poppins and pulled out receipts, actual printed phone transcripts. Color-coded and time-stamped. One clip after another, Bambi's voice spilled every secret, every lie. Every fake emotion she used to manipulate Scrappy. "I never loved him," she said in one. "He was just a storyline," she said in another. Scrappy sank back into his chair like he'd been hit by a truck, his lawyer whispering furiously into his ear while Mama D was live streaming the whole scene from the gallery, muttering, "I told y'all. I told y'all from day one." Twitter was already blowing up. Clips of the courtroom audio spreading faster than wildfire. One viral tweet read, "Bambi out here confessing like it's Sunday morning testimony time. Scrappy better call Tyler Perry." Meanwhile, Stevie stood there cool as ice, pressing pause on each clip right before the next bomb dropped, giving the judge just enough time to register the weight of every word. Then came the kicker, Bambi, in a call made just 2 weeks before, filing for divorce, saying, "Once this is over, I'll be free. Scrappy still got money coming in. I just gotta hold out until the next season drops. Then, poof, I'm gone." Scrappy let out a noise no man should ever make in public. somewhere between a growl and a sob, and slammed his hand on the table. The judge threatened to hold everyone in contempt, but Stevie just leaned against the podium like he had all day. Then, out of nowhere, Mama D pulled out her phone and posted a picture with the caption, "Time to drag some demons to the altar. Stay tuned." Her deems lit up immediately, former assistants, hairstylists, ex-cast members, all sending in screenshots. Old voice memos, text receipts, you name it. One anonymous message said, "She'd been messing with Stevie since 2022. Scrappy found out once but stayed for the cameras." Another said she only married Scrappy to push her skincare brand. She called it strategic branding. The audience inside the courtroom was shocked, but the audience online was feral. TikTok was dissecting every clip. Reddit threads were popping up faster than Bambi could blink. But it wasn't just social media doing the digging. According to an anonymous source close to the case, Stevie had been building this presentation for months. He had a timeline, transaction logs, and even security footage of him and Bambi walking out of a hotel 2 days before her jail booking. The file name: "The Night It All Fell Apart." And just when you thought it couldn't get more insane, fake court documents leaked showing that Stevie filed a defamation suit against Bambi a month prior. Why? Because she allegedly told multiple people that Stevie was the mastermind behind her fraudulent business schemes. She claimed he introduced her to Crypto Dave, the guy who helped her move money through shell companies and offshore accounts. The same Crypto Dave who, according to fictional FBI documents, flipped on them both and started cooperating with federal agents. Suddenly, this wasn't just a messy divorce. This was a federal case in the making. And while all this played out in public, behind closed doors, Scrappy's legal team was already working overtime. Emergency custody filings, motions to freeze assets, and demands for financial transparency were being typed up faster than Bambi could wipe the fake tears off her cheek. She looked over at Stevie like she'd seen a ghost. He looked back at her like he was the one holding the resurrection stone. But the real twist came when the judge asked if there was anything else, and Stevie nodded slowly like a movie villain in the final act, and said, "Just one more thing, Your Honor." He pulled out a recording labeled "Only Z Call." The courtroom tensed. Bambi flinched. Mama D crossed herself, and Scrappy. He closed his eyes as if bracing for a car crash he couldn't stop. The audio file played, and the voice was unmistakably Bambi's again. This time low and calculating. No emotion, just strategy bleeding through every syllable. "Scrappy, going to fold," she said. He emotional. "As long as Mama D don't get involved, we good." The room collectively gasped. It was no longer just about betrayal. It was about orchestration, control, manipulation at a level no one in that courtroom expected. Mama D stood up again, hand over her heart like she'd just witnessed her own funeral. "I'm already involved, baby," she said, loud enough for the whole gallery to hear. The judge ordered silence, but the crowd couldn't take it anymore. This wasn't court. This was chaos disguised as legal procedure. Stevie J leaned back, arms crossed, face unreadable. But that smug smirk never left. Bambi's lawyer requested a break, her eyes darting between the judge, her client, and the growing storm outside the courthouse. Because what was happening inside was already live on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and probably a few burner accounts too. By now, multiple reality stars had chimed in with cryptic posts and passive-aggressive stories. Erica Mena wrote, "Bin knew she was fake, but the bombshells weren't over." A leaked folder mysteriously made its way to fake TMZ, reportedly pulled from a courthouse archive by a so-called anonymous staff member. Inside, a photo of Stevie J and Bambi, timestamped and location tagged in a hotel elevator just 48 hours before her arrest. The caption read, "The night before the collapse." Immediately, the question wasn't whether Bambi betrayed Scrappy, was whether Stevie had set the whole thing up. Because let's be real, this man walked into court with edited audio, jail recordings, color-coded documents, financial receipts, and a PowerPoint presentation. Nobody prepares like that unless they're out for blood. Then came the twist that flipped the scandal into a full-blown legal thriller. A whistleblower allegedly named Crypto. Dave came forward to federal investigators with documents showing Bambi used multiple shell companies under Scrappy's name to hide money from brand, deals in social media promotions, and worse. Stevie J's name appeared on several wire transfers. Suddenly, this wasn't about cheating, it was about fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy, and maybe even money laundering. The judge, now clearly rattled, declared that federal agencies would begin reviewing all financial documents tied to Bambi, Stevie, and their mutual associates. Scrappy's legal team pounced like sharks in a bloodbath. They requested an emergency subpoena for all Bambi's financials from the last 2 years, including skincare brand income, OnlyFans revenue, reality show payments, and crypto investments. The judge granted it. The court clerk printed the motion. And Bambi. She just sat there, completely still. Lips pressed tight like she was chewing secrets she no longer had the appetite to swallow. Her lawyer whispered something. She nodded slowly. And then came the announcement that silenced even the judge. "Your Honor," her lawyer said, "my client would like to change her plea." The entire room held its breath. To what? The judge asked, his voice sharper now, suspicious, tired of surprises. No contest. In exchange for leniency and full cooperation with federal investigators, Scrappy's face went pale. The betrayal had reached final form. She wasn't just turning on him, she was turning on Stevie, on VH1 producers, on Crypto Dave, maybe even on herself. The courtroom erupted again. Mama D collapsed into her chair like her soul had left her body. Stevie clenched his jaw. The first time he lost that smug composure all day. Bambi just stared at the floor like it was the last safe space left in her life. Within hours, 5 fictional folders were submitted to authorities, filled with screenshots, WhatsApp conversations, burner account messages, and a spreadsheet tracking every payment ever funneled through Glow Mommy Inc., the fake wellness brand. Registered under Scrappy's name. One email subject line read, "If this leaks, we're done." Too late. VH1 scrambled to respond, releasing a vague PR statement saying they were launching an internal review and suspending all cast members involved pending investigation. Translation: they were panicking. Meanwhile, Mama D went live from the courthouse. Steps, hair blown back, voice raised to the heavens, yelling into her iPhone. "I told y'all this heifer wasn't right. And Stevie, don't make me leak the voicemail I got from 21. The live passed 75,000 views in 10 minutes. TikTok edits popped up like popcorn, each one more outrageous than the last. One showed Bambi's courtroom face morphing into Cruella de Vil. Another stitched her jail call over the Titanic sinking. But what came next was darker. According to a fake leak from the prosecutor's office, Bambi was now being investigated for witness tampering. Apparently, she'd offered $5,000 and a luxury lace-front wig to a former friend in exchange for silence. The friend took the money and still posted the receipts. And now Bambi wasn't just facing divorce. She was staring down charges of fraud, perjury, wire transfers under false identity, and tampering with a federal witness. Her team tried to play defense, releasing a statement that said, "Ms. Bambi has endured years of emotional abuse and is cooperating with authorities to protect her children." But the internet wasn't buying it. One viral tweet read, "She went from ride or die to Bonnie with no Clyde. Whole time Stevie was the plug." Back inside court, Scrappy's legal team filed for emergency full custody of their kids and immediate asset protection. arguing that Bambi's actions put their financial and emotional stability at risk. The judge granted the request pending further investigation. And as Scrappy left the courtroom, flanked by security and a wall of flashing lights, he didn't speak to anyone. No smiles, no shades, just a face full of betrayal and fury. When asked by a paparazzo if Bambi was going to jail, he didn't flinch, didn't blink. He just kept walking, like a man who'd seen enough and said nothing because the truth had already said it all. Inside, Bambi slumped at the defense table, her whole empire crumbling around her. She wasn't the boss anymore. She was the evidence, and Stevie. He stood by the window, hands in his pockets, watching it all burn without ever looking back. The silence that followed was the kind that hums in your ears like a warning siren before the ground splits open. The courtroom might have quieted down, but outside, the internet was in full meltdown mode. Every second brought a new leak, a new clip, a new angle to dissect. Fake subpoenas began circulating on social media, one claiming that federal agents were now issuing warrants to seize assets tied to Glow Mommy Inc., and other fake subpoenas linked to Bambi and Stevie J. And it wasn't just business bank accounts. Under FIRO, no. They were coming for the Atlanta condo, the luxury Range Rover registered in Stevie's name. Even a Dubai-based crypto wallet allegedly connected to Shell transfers. One document even listed a joint credit card with Scrappy, used to buy over $30,000 in jewelry during a so-called branding trip. And then came the real Scorchera surveillance video allegedly provided by a fictional courthouse informant. The grainy footage showed Bambi and Stevie J in a dimly lit studio backroom, laughing, sipping wine, and counting a stack of cash like they just hit the lottery. In the clip, Bambi turns to Stevie and says, "VH1 paid for the show. Scrappy paid for the lifestyle. I just finessed the math." That single quote lit up the timeline like a wildfire in July. Scrappy's face when that clip played. Devastated isn't even the word. He sat forward, hands gripping the table so tight his knuckles went white. Eyes locked on Stevie like he was seeing him for the first time and wishing he could unsee everything. But Stevie didn't flinch. He leaned back in his chair, smooth, calm, almost proud of the chaos he'd orchestrated. Meanwhile, Bambi's entire defense team was scrambling. Her lead attorney whispered something in her ear, and within moments she was back on her feet, ready to speak again. "Your Honor," the lawyer said, "my client would like to make a formal statement regarding her cooperation." And just like that, Bambi flipped harder than a reality TV reunion table. She named names. Not just Stevie J, not just Crypto Dave, but 3 VH1 producers allegedly complicit in encouraging the storyline, pushing her to stay in the marriage and looking the other way when the shady financials started surfacing. One fake internal memo reportedly read, "Keep her on the show. Drama equals ratings. Just don't let the feds catch wind." Too late, within hours, VH1 issued another fake PR statement, confirming that an external legal team was reviewing questionable practices and that all parties involved had been temporarily suspended. But let's not pretend this show was still intact. At this point, Love and Hip Hop was less a series and more a crime docuseries in the making. Meanwhile, Scrappy wasn't done fighting. That same day, his legal team filed a petition to freeze all shared marital accounts, backdated to the day Bambi was first booked. They cited emotional exploitation, financial deceit, and parental instability, requesting full custody and the right to approve any future public appearances or business ventures involving their children. The judge granted an emergency hold, stating there was enough cause to proceed with an extensive financial audit. Okay? That meant Bambi's past 2 years of income, investments, sponsorship deals, and online platforms would be laid bare. And oh, did the internet dig in deep? Live streams were resurfaced. Comments where Bambi boasted about stacking quietly while others fumbled were now being clipped and recontextualized. One viral post read, "She wasn't stacking, she was scheming." And Stevie was her accountant. And Mama D. She was reveling in it all, going live every hour on the hour like it was her personal courtroom confessional. "Y'all thought I was messy," she shouted in one video, but truth don't need a stylist, just needs a mic. By now, the court had become a revolving door for drama. Scrappy showed up to the next hearing alone again. No ring, no smile, just a thick folder in his hand. When the judge asked if he had anything to add, he didn't speak. He passed forward a flash drive. The judge sighed, hesitant, probably tired of surprise evidence by now, but he allowed it, the file. A voicemail from Bambi to someone labeled simply as V. And the audio, brutal. "Once this divorce goes through, I'm free. Scrappy still got money coming in. I just gotta hold out until the next season drops. Then poofing gone." The courtroom froze again. No sound, no movement. Not even a cough. Scrappy didn't even react anymore. He just stared ahead like the betrayal had gone numb in his bones. The judge asked the obvious. "Who is V?" No answer. But the theories were already online. Some said it was a VH1 executive, others claimed it was Erica. Even a few wild ones guessed it was another man altogether, someone she had waiting in the wings. But identity aside, the intent was clear. Bambi had mapped out her escape like a war plan, and Scrappy was nothing more than a stepping stone. The judge closed the file, leaned forward, and said in the driest tone possible, "This case is no longer about divorce. It's about truth." Outside, fans were camped out on courthouse steps. Influencers were making full-length breakdowns. And TMZ dropped another fake bombshell headline. Federal warrant issued for VH1 exec tied to Bambi scheme. It was no longer reality TV. It was reality wreckage. And while Stevie J left the courthouse with a duffel bag and his signature, smirk, refusing to answer questions, Bambi wasn't so lucky. Her assets were being frozen, her brand collapsed overnight. And her face was now the cautionary tale of every influencer gossip podcast from LA to Atlanta. Scrappy's final move. A press release issued through his legal team that simply read, "My client is focused on healing, raising his children, and rebuilding his peace after years of emotional, financial, and public betrayal." The internet crowned him the survivor, Bambi the scammer, and Stevie the chaos conductor. But even as the courthouse doors slammed shut and the world caught its breath, one thing was absolutely certain. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the end of an illusion and the beginning of a very real, very public downfall no one saw coming. So after all this chaos, courtroom drama, and betrayal that felt ripped straight out of a Netflix crime thriller, what do you think? Is Bambi really the cold, calculated mastermind behind this web of lies and manipulation? Or was Stevie J pulling the strings the whole time, using courtrooms as his personal stage for revenge? And let's not forget Scrappy, the man caught in the crossfire, blindsided by the very woman he built a family with. Was he just a pawn in their twisted game? Or did he ignore the red flags too long for the sake of love and loyalty? We want to hear from you. Drop your theories in the comments, no matter how wild or spicy they are. Do you think VH1 producers knew everything? Should Mama D get her own courtroom reality series? And most importantly, what happens next? If you're still gasping, replaying Bambi's jail calls in your head, and wondering what other secrets might still be buried, don't even think about leaving without hitting that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications, because this story is far from over. We've got more leaked tapes, more scandalous receipts, and yes, more courtroom bombs on the way. Stay tuned, stay loud, and stay ready.